listening to the Career Musician Podcast with creator and host, Nomad. With 20 plus years of experience in the music industry, Nomad has done just about everything to earn a living as a career musician. From being music director to celebrity artists, playing iconic arenas and stadiums, composing for film and TV, and even playing your average local club gigs, he's done it all. Nomad's mission is to empower musicians across the globe with strategies for a sustainable career while blasting stereotypes, and to bring you tried and true wisdom from his colleagues in this crazy business we call music.
Derek Frank, welcome to Nomad's Place.
Hey, man. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming, man.
Dude, my pleasure. You're right down the street.
Yes, very cool.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how we met, right?
We're neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. Burbank.
Yep. Gotta love Burbank.
Indeed, man. Mm-hmm. Now, your house, you have a studio as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Got a garage. That was kind of the main selling point of the house, is that we had a 3-car garage that we could build a studio in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how many people in Burbank are actually musicians, right?
Probably
Producers,
half.
Composers, players.
Yeah, it seems like every couple of months I get invited to some session, and it's like down the street somewhere in someone's garage. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know there was a studio here.
That's awesome.
But it seems like half the houses in Burbank have some sort of studio,
Right.
Everybody's in the industry.
Exactly. Then not to mention writers and actors and producers, directors.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. We're definitely in the entertainment district here.
In the hub. That's awesome.
Yeah,
cool. All right. So, bro, the career musician, basically, it is what it is, right? A lot of people say, what does that mean? Well, we've made a living out of playing music. So I kind of dubbed us as career musicians.
Yeah. Somehow we've made it work.
Exactly. Not wood. Yeah.
Against all odds, right?
So, look, first I want to talk about a brief history.
Okay.
I think you went to the University of Miami. Is that right?
I did. Yeah.
So what got you into music? What was the impetus that said, you know what? I'm going to be a musician, but I'm going to be a bass player as well.
Well, that was early on. I mean, just as a kid, I think a lot of us that end up doing this, we discover music when we're really young and we just like it. We don't know anything about it. We don't play an instrument yet, but we're just into it. And that was me. I listened to a lot of stuff. I was really into it. When MTV came out, I just could not stop watching it. I just saw people playing on MTV, and I was like, man, I want to do that.
Right.
So then, when the time came, I got a guitar, started taking lessons for just a few months, and then I was in a music store once waiting for my lesson, and there was a bass on the wall, and I was like, what's that? And the guy's like, that's a bass guitar. And I had no idea what that was. So I was like, oh, I want to check that out. So as I'm waiting for my guitar lesson, I start playing this bass, and it was immediately just like, wow, this is my instrument. This is what I want to play.
Wow, that's incredible.
It was kind of like that, yeah.
What led you? Was it because there was only 4 strings? Were they because they were thicker, the vibrations, the lower frequencies?
I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just like I started playing it and just really dug it. I was like, wow, this thing's really cool. And then I kind of learned what it is and what its function is in a band. And just started taking lessons on one of those. I was a caddy at the time, saved up some money caddying at the golf course, and bought a Kramer bass, a Kramer Duke bass. And
I used to have a Kramer guitar.
Oh, yeah? That was in Norwalk, Connecticut. You probably know where that is. You're from Long Island, right?
Absolutely. East Coast
so not too far away. Yeah.
All right, so then what brought you down to Miami and eventually over here?
Well, I I pretty soon got pretty serious about it. Like I had my high school garage band. We'd jam on, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. Then my family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and I was kind of thrust into all the groups in the school, like in the music program. Like there were no bass players. So I got thrust into jazz band, concert band, even marching band, because they didn't have tubas. So I played in marching band with a wireless. And then like would do the, play in the pit orchestra for the musicals they'd have at high school. So I was just kind of thrust into all these situations that made me a better musician. I had to learn to read. I had to learn to play jazz. I had to learn, all that kind of stuff, and it kind of made me get serious about music, and then started, auditioning for other stuff around Cleveland. I played in this like all-state jazz band called Ohio Jazz Orchestra for Youth, and got my ass kicked in that, and that really made me kind of step up and shed a lot. And
that's a trip
get
how
my
that
act
happens,
together.
right?
Yeah.
So how did you learn how to read and play changes and whatnot in jazz? Because you're going from rock and roll to jazz. That's a transition.
Oh yeah, totally. I was a metalhead before I did that. Like when I moved to Cleveland, I was like into thrash metal and stuff like that. And then cool. I started taking theory, and the high school band director was like, oh, we need a bass player in jazz band and all this stuff. And I'd never played any of that stuff before. I'd never read anything. So I was just thrust into it, and I had to learn. And I got a teacher in Cleveland and helped me start reading, and I got some reading books, and I just practiced reading. And it was just like trial by fire, sink or swim,
Right.
So like if there's something that I couldn't figure out, I just had to like take it home and figure it out,
Yeah. And this is the days before the internet.
Yeah.
So no YouTube to just look it up, right?
No. I just had to kind of learn from books and learn from a teacher, and just learn by putting the hours in, just by, kind of practicing reading rhythms and reading notes. And the more I did that, and the more reading situations I got put into, just kind of the better I got at it. And it was a very valuable skill that I was fortunate enough to learn early on.
Right. Incredible.
Yeah.
Did you ever used to clap out the rhythms before you would
Totally.
Doesn't that help?
I remember I would just sit in bed like with my book and like a flashlight and a pencil, and I would like just kind of like nod my head to the quarter note and just tap out the rhythms. I would just kind of like do that for a half hour before bed.
That's brilliant,
just things like that. Or if I had time where I didn't have my bass with me and I couldn't like actually practice, I would do that. Yeah, just tap out the rhythms just to kind of learn how to read rhythms.
I talk about that all the time. To this day, I'll be sitting on the airplane writing a chart.
Totally.
And on your iPad, and you can just tap it out and you can count through it and slow it down, right?
Yeah.
Just
I do that all the time, just like on planes, because that's like the, downtime you have a lot of times in between gigs or whatever, and you're like, okay, well I can use this 3-hour flight to chart out tunes for the next gig.
That's right.
I'm
That's
doing
right.
that all the time.
Yeah. We're gonna come back to that actually.
Yeah.
All right. So then you go to UM. So which is kind of good because you start in jazz band, you get your feet wet.
Yeah, I got
learning
more
theory.
serious. I got more serious with jazz as time went on. Like I said, I was in that Ohio Jazz Orchestra for Youth with a lot of like real great players from local high schools. I did that, and then I went to Interlochen Center for the Arts for 2 summer programs, and then ended up staying for my senior year of high school. They had a boarding school, and it's just an arts boarding school where everybody's there to get just better at their craft.
That's cool.
So
How long were you there?
Yeah, I was there for a year, senior year. So I did 2 summers and then stayed around for my senior year of high school. Then I went to University of Miami.
That's immersive, though. That
Oh,
boarding
totally.
School, that's
man, it was
really
great.
a great idea.
You had
That's a
nothing to
head
do but
start.
play. Yeah, it really was. Because I was with a lot of like-minded people that just
Yeah.
wanted to play all the time. Aside from our ensembles that we were in our classes, we would jam constantly. Late at night, early in the morning, like you're with a bunch of people that just want to play, and that just really gives you a head start.
Yeah.
Just putting in that many hours playing. I was very fortunate to have been able to do that.
Okay, so that got you prepped for Miami.
Yeah, then I went to Miami. Miami was the only school I auditioned for. I was an electric bass player. I never really got into the upright thing. A lot of the other schools that had jazz programs were a little bit more traditional, big bandy, to where like I couldn't really just be an electric bass player, and go there. So really my options were Miami, Berkeley, or MI. And Miami just seemed to be the right program at the time.
But you didn't even apply to the others.
I didn't. I applied and auditioned at Miami, got accepted, and that was it.
Bam.
So it made my choice easy.
That's awesome.
Just went for one school.
Yeah.
And then-
What was that like?
It's great.
And you've completed your
Yeah,
bachelor's?
I did 4 years. I did take a year off after freshman year. I just kind of wanted to like take some time off and process everything because I'd been going pretty intensely for a while, like with the summer jazz program I was in, and then Interlochen for a year. And then after that, I did a cruise ship for the summer. Then I went to Miami for freshman year. And it was just a ton of intense shedding for years. And I really just kind of needed to take time away from that and just process it. So I took a year off after freshman year. I did a cruise ship gig for 6 months, saved up some money, practiced my ass off, but also, partied quite a bit as people do on cruise ships.
That's a brilliant plan.
And, I just kind of I just needed a year to kind of like sort of catch up, process, relax a little bit as well. I feel like it was just like a lot of information, and
it's intense.
I was really practicing a lot back then too.
Right.
So I took that year off and then went back and finished. It was great. It was a great program. A lot of great players. I played in a lot of bands and just took in a lot of information. And it was great.
What was, because I used to live in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, I think we had that conversation.
We might have talked about this. Yeah. Circa, when did you go?
I started in 91, finished 96.
Okay, so we're basically the same class.
Okay.
I never went to UM. I got accepted to Berkeley and ended up not going.
Oh, okay.
I wish I did, though.
Okay, well, you probably got a gig or something.
Exactly, I started gigging. I knew a lot of the players back then. Do you remember Jonathan Kreisberg?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a buddy of mine. Yep.
Yeah, he's amazing.
We've played together a bunch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And he's in New York now, right?
He is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I knew a whole slew of other people, which I don't remember a lot of names, but I'm sure we know.
And there's a lot out here.
Yes,
a lot of Miami guys. Jeff Babco, Kevin Stevens, Jason Sutter, Brendan Buckley.
That's right.
There's a ton of Miami guys.
That's right. And I know Brendan's going to do the show as well.
Oh, cool.
Coming up soon. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So that's cool. So by the way, was it Carnival, Royal Caribbean?
First it was Royal Caribbean, then it was Carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. I did the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
Cool. I did a Carnival cruise for a while, yeah.
Man, it's a great way to make money when you're young. Like,
yes.
It was, that was my summer job. Like, from right out of high school, all throughout college, like, I would go out on cruise ships for the summer. And it was great because I was, you're playing 6 nights a week, play different music because you're backing up whatever shows come on, like whatever singers
all the variety
come
shows
on.
And everything.
Yeah, you're reading charts all the time, and we had a lot of great players. Like we would jam a lot as well. Like, we'd like after the show, we'd go get something to eat, go back in the lounge, and just play.
That's
a lot of times
awesome.
we'd play till 3 a.m. Sometimes I got into serious practice modes. I would practice till like 7 a.m., go to bed, wake up at like 2. Because you don't really have to do anything.
Get ready
the day.
for the gig again.
Yeah, so I got very nocturnal and just really like, at that time, no one's bothering you. You're just like, I would go in the showroom where we would play, and the stage would just be empty, and that was just like I could have the whole place to myself. It's quiet. I would just practice.
See, that's a work ethic that I totally admire, and that's what we're talking about, man. It's like, that kind of focus and discipline. I feel like a lot of times is lost today. Because there's so many distractions.
There are a lot of distractions.
To no one's fault. Even I find myself sometimes, okay, I'm going to sit down and practice. And then if I dare open up YouTube, I'm stuck now. Now my jaw's dropping watching other players. And I'm like, well, what the hell? I can't do what he's doing or she's doing.
Right.
I mean, that's just one example, but there's so many distractions, right?
Yeah. Back then I didn't have a phone, no email. No one could get a hold of me. I couldn't check my Instagram. It's brilliant, man.
Yeah. But I was the same way. I was very methodical and just stuck to it. I really loved the plan that you kind of carved out for yourself. So you're making money. By the way, any young career musicians out there listening, if you're single, young, you just want to get out and explore, check out the cruise lines because it's a great opportunity and there's no overhead. You don't have to pay rent.
Yeah, you save your money, as long as you, give up your apartment or whatever, and you're not paying rent. It's a great way to save money.
Then it's really smart.
Yeah, I always recommend that to young players like that are just out of college or just want to go gig. It's like, do that. Go see the world,
I agree.
And you just get a lot of playing done. You can meet some great people. I'm still very much in touch with a lot of the people that I played with on ships.
That's awesome.
A lot of them are have great music careers going.
See, there you go. A lot of people ask me, man, how do I get on tours? How do I get on tours? I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Go get your chops up on a cruise ship. Build up all those, like you said, relationships and experience.
Yeah.
And then things will happen if you're living in the right place. And,
for sure.
Hanging with the right people.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Brilliant. So you did that and then graduated UM. What brought you out west to LA?
So it's interesting. I kind of ended up here by mistake. It wasn't. I wasn't trying to get to LA. It's really weird. universe has plans for you. You know, it's like
Yeah,
things
sure
work
does.
out the way they're supposed to sometimes. And when I finished college, I moved to Boston. I was dating a girl at the time who was a singer. She was in the jazz program at Miami. She transferred to Berkeley, and I was like, I'll go to Boston. Like,
Sure.
I didn't really know what I was gonna do. Like, I just knew I wanted to play and make some money doing it.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'll go to Boston. Why not? So I went to Boston with her. Didn't really work out. Just gig wise, relationship wise, and then eventually, I was just like, all right, I got to get out of here. And I went back on a cruise ship, make some money because I was broke. So went and did the cruise ship for a bit, and then I had some friends in San Francisco that were making a living playing jazz. They were playing a lot, doing well, and said the scene was great. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I'll go to San Fran. While I was in college, my parents actually moved to LA, and I'd never really spent time out here, but before I went to San Fran, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to LA, live with my parents for like the summer or something,
Smart.
save some money, not pay rent for a little bit, just kind of like, kind of restart.
Yeah.
And but I was in LA for like 2 weeks and decided to stay.
So Anthony King got you some gigs out here.
Yeah,
and you just
yeah.
decided to stay.
Yeah, I was here for a couple of weeks. We started doing jazz gigs around town, and I just kind of said, you know what, there's so much happening here. This is the place I need to be.
Yeah.
And so that was in '97. So I've been here almost 23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Crazy.
And we ran into each other just by being in Burbank. Look, we were saying
Yeah.
years. I moved out in 2005. So
Okay.
15 years
Okay.
for me. But I don't think you and I met until
No, we didn't.
10, 11, 12?
Yeah,
2000,
something like
somewhere
that.
around there? Yeah.
And we figured out that we almost crossed paths. There was a show that you did with Kirk Whalum, and I was with Mindy Abair that we were on. It was at Microsoft Theater.
Right.
And we were both there, but we didn't meet. It was like a week later that I met Lola at dog obedience training.
That's right.
And she was, and she was telling me about you, and like,
That's
and
awesome,
and I was telling her
yeah.
who I was playing with, and she was like, "Wait, did you just do that show at Microsoft Theater?" And
Right.
I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh yeah, Nomad was there with Kirk Whalum." And,
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. All right, that's a perfect segue. Are you still working with Mindy?
I'm not. No,
Okay.
unfortunately not.
Okay.
My schedule got super crazy.
Crazy
I was
busy,
juggling too many gigs, and it was one of those things where something's got to give.
Okay, I
Yeah.
know of Gwen Stefani and Shania Twain. So
Mm-hmm.
tell us about that. Who else you've been touring with and doing
Well,
sessions or whatever?
Yeah, those
keep
are the
us-
two gigs that I'm doing right now. I'm
Okay.
juggling both of them. I started with Shania back in 2015. That's when I joined her band.
Awesome.
I was with her that year. The following year, she didn't tour. She was working on a record, and I ended up joining the band Air Supply, and that was really fun. I had no idea those guys travel the world. They do like 120 shows a year, all over the place. So I did that for a while until Shania started getting busy again in 2017. I juggled those gigs for a little bit. Then eventually, I just couldn't continue with Air Supply. Shania was getting busy and kind of had to make a decision. So I stepped out of Air Supply. Then Shania had a tour in 2018 that I didn't end up doing. She used kind of a smaller band for that one. So I didn't end up doing that tour, but that's when I got the call for Gwen Stefani. So I've been with Gwen
Nice.
since like April 2018. So coming up on 2 years now.
Beautiful.
And then Shania started up again. We're doing a Vegas residency. So now I'm kind of splitting my time between Gwen and Shania.
That's incredible. And there's no
been fun.
conflicts yet.
There's a few coming up. I'm going to have to sub out a few things, but we'll see how that goes. The good thing is they're both doing a Vegas residency in the same theater, so those don't conflict.
Oh,
so
that's
kind of
awesome.
perfect. They're both on rotation in the Zappos Theater in Vegas.
Zappos Theater.
Yeah,
Okay.
at Planet Hollywood. So
Got you.
So that's great. Gwen has a lot more stuff this year as well. So most of it I can do. There's a couple things that I'm not going to be able to make. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Very cool. Now, when you do the Vegas runs, do you commute back and forth, or do you bring your wife out and just crash in Vegas for a while, or how do you like to do that?
Usually I stay out there. It's just easier. Sometimes I'll come home, but a lot of times I'll just stay out there. Each run is about 3 weeks.
Oh, that's not bad.
Sometimes 4. I mean, this last run was longer just because I went back to back from, like, we did a run with Gwen, then Shania rehearsals for 3 weeks, then shows for a couple weeks with Shania. So I was there for about 2 months.
Wow.
And I did come home for a week in between. And my wife comes out quite a bit.
Right, was that over
come
the
out and hang.
holays?
It was right before the holidays.
I think
yeah,
I
it
remember
was
you
like-
guys throwing some cool parties on social media that I saw.
Oh,
You know,
okay,
just some
okay.
posts that you were, oh yeah, we're making a nice dinner here for.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah. We spent Thanksgiving out
That's
there.
what it was. Yes.
Yeah, because we
Yes.
ended up working on Thanksgiving. We rehearsed on Thanksgiving
Right.
till like 10 o'clock, and my wife came out, and some of the other wives and girlfriends came out, and we just had like a hotel room Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
it was great.
That's what I saw.
It
That's
ended up being really nice.
That's
yeah.
awesome. I love that about musicians and touring and just being together. We're all familial by It seems like that's what we're gravitate towards, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Food and drink and good
Yeah.
combo.
Of
just
course. Yeah.
jamming, hanging
Yeah.
out. That's
Yeah,
awesome,
yeah.
bro. Excellent. Okay, so I mean, those are really impressive tours and artists to be juggling and doing. Even if you just had one of them, it's impressive, But to be doing both of them at the same time, that's brilliant.
And I'm very, very fortunate because I love playing with both of them. They're both super fun gigs, great bands, great artists, and the fact that I'm able to do both, I feel super lucky.
Let's talk about like the biggest thing right there as far as business goes. When you have to sub out a gig,
Mm-hmm.
in your opinion and in your experience, because these are two big gigs,
Mm-hmm.
what is the protocol for subbing and what have you learned? What have you found works best?
Well, we'll see. I haven't done it yet, but actually.
But you've done it in the past.
Oh yeah, sure. And in the Gwen band, other people in the band have, and you just find somebody that's good. You just kind of get it covered. And we've been fortunate. We've had some really good subs in the band.
Great.
Because everybody in the band has other gigs. Like
Right.
Gwen's not working consistently. You still have to fill in the gaps. Not many artists are paying retainer these days, so it's kind of like a thing where you have to gig, and every now and then there's going to be a conflict.
That's just what it is.
So the good thing about her camp is they seem to be pretty understanding of that. So a couple of the guys in the band have subbed out, and one of the guys that subbed on drums was the former drum tech, so he knew the show.
he knew it like
he'd
the-
been on tour, yeah, and he did a great job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then a lot of times just with subbing, if you have to sub out a gig, usually the first person to look to is the person that did the gig before you, assuming that they left under good terms,
Right.
kind of see if whoever did the gig before you is available, because then that person knows the show.
Then you're in good shape. And let that be like the underlying lesson here. You want to leave any gig on good terms.
Of course.
You know, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then you mentioned that, and then also filling in the gaps. It sounds like you have a really good sense of how to operate in the industry, within the industry after all these years. What can you expound on that? Filling in the gaps, making sure you don't burn bridges,
Yeah.
keeping relationships within good standing, and
Yeah. I mean, with me, I'm a working bass player. I'm a freelance guy, hired gun, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just trying to keep my schedule full, however I can, with whatever gigs I can do. Because like I said before, it's very rare to have one gig that just kind of pays you a salary and you can just do that one thing. So, I think a lot of us working musicians just do that. We'll have a couple of our steady gigs and then we do other things in between. A lot of times that's subbing. Sometimes it's you're holding on to a few gigs at once where you are the main guy on those gigs and you have to juggle. But when it comes time to sub out something, you just got to make sure that the gig is covered. You get someone that you trust, that is going to do a good job. Prepare them however you can. Give them, board recordings, charts, whatever you've done for your prep. Pass that on to the guy who's going to sub, just to help him out and ensure that he's going to do a great job.
talk about the concept of being nervous. Oh, I don't want to get somebody who they love so much that they might not invite me back. How do you feel about the morals and values of that? And because I know what I would like to see happen if I hired somebody to fill in for me. What are you looking for? How do you feel?
I don't really think about that too much. I mean, the people that I'm going to call to sub for me are usually people that are my friends.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of bass player friends that are
There you
great,
go.
And they wouldn't be there, in the artist's ear saying like, hey man, like I do a better job in this gig. Like the people that I'm going to call are not going to do that to me, and they know I'm not going to do that to them.
That's exactly why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we have to remind those who come after us you know what? Look, man, it's not all about you. There's enough out there for everybody.
Yeah.
And let's be cool to one another.
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
no backstabbing, no stealing gigs and all that.
Yeah, I mean, most of us get our gigs from other people that play our instrument.
Word of mouth.
Like
from
you
the
get
same,
you
right.
get gigs from guitar players
That's
that need a
right.
sub. I get gigs from bass players that need a sub or are stepping out of something and need to recommend somebody to replace them. Like
That's right.
That's how a lot of us get gigs. So we're not going to try to stab people in the back, steal their gigs. That's not it's counterproductive.
It's like an unspoken rule.
Yeah.
It's our creed, right? We live by
of
it.
course. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. All right. So speaking of being on tour with all these great, artists, what are some of the tour essentials for you? Gear, peripheral items, packing, travel tips, list any little insight and things that you say, man, this
like things
is
I
the
gotta
way.
have on the road, Well, gear wise, it just depends on the gig. Whenever I'm starting a new gig, I try to just figure out what the best sound is going to be, what the best situation is going to be. There's been a lot of trial and error over the years for that, and
For the artist's sound.
you're
cultivating your instrument.
Yeah,
sound.
for the artist sound, for the production. Like a lot of times, if I'm starting a gig, I'm like, okay, are we using amps? Are we not using amps? Because a lot of the gigs nowadays are ampless. They want a clean stage. I've started using Kemper profilers. I use them on both the Shania gig and the Gwen gig, and they're amazing. So I've profiled my Aguilar rig. I mean, if I had my choice, I'd have my Aguilar touring rig out with me. Unfortunately, in today's situation, that's not always possible. So I've profiled my own amp, and I just use it in my Kemper profiler. So
you just bring the Kemper head.
Yeah, because I'm juggling 2 gigs right now, I keep a set of gear with each of them, so I don't have to physically bring stuff myself or swap stuff out. So I've got 2 profilers that live in a rack in Gwen's locker, and they take that back and forth. Plus, I keep 3 basses on that gig, and it just stays with her gear and just makes it easy. And then same with Shania, all the Shania gear stays in Vegas. We're all on Kemper profilers. Then I've got a trunk full of basses that I keep out in Vegas, and when it comes time to play, they just bring that. So gear wise, that's kind of what I do. Like if I'm juggling gigs, I try to figure out the easiest way to make my gear available. Because a lot of times I may go right from one gig to the next. I can't go home to pick stuff up or take stuff to a cartage place or whatever. So I try to just kind of figure out what the best gear situation is going to be.
That's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. And then do you travel yourself on your person? Do you take a bass? Do you take a small rig when you're flying, or
just for one-offs? Like we do some one-offs, some fly dates. Usually for that, I'll bring one bass and then backline a couple more.
Okay,
like
right. That's what I do.
Backline, backline a 5-string, a P bass, and then I'll bring with Gwen. I have I've been using Fano basses with Gwen, so I have this really great Fano JM4, and I bring one of those for the one-offs. Yeah.
You bring any pedals, a little pedal board? Or?
I was using a Line 6 HX Stomp along with a Noble Tube preamp, and that was kind of like this little mini pedal board that I would bring. But I'm going to start using the Kemper Stage just because I've got my sounds really dialed in for that. So I'm going to get one of those pretty soon. It's the Kemper's little pedal board.
Right. And then that's great because then there's continuity. So no matter where you go, your sound is consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
so typically for one-offs, I'll bring, depending on the gig, I'll bring some form of pedal board and one bass, and then just backline whatever else I need.
Nice. How about yourself? You bring a backpack, some luggage. Any tips for traveling?
Like,
any travel hacks?
Yeah, we've all got our stuff that we can't live without. Like when I travel, I have to bring a Bluetooth speaker for my hotel room.
Yes.
Have to bring a little essential oil diffuser, get the room smelling nice,
I forgot to turn mine on today.
Oh, man, yeah. Like total, travel essentials.
Right.
What else? A lot of times I bring a little travel yoga mat. I don't know.
Are you
those are the first things that come to mind.
Because I know I am. Do you follow up with all your airline details, or do you say, hey, whatever happens, happens. If I get stuck in a middle seat, if they forget my mileage, whatever, or are you proactive about
Oh, no, I'm totally proactive.
Same way, right?
Yeah, as soon as I know the flight gets booked, because they don't always enter your frequent flyer info and all
That's
that.
right.
So, some places do that meticulously, some don't. I mean, some tour managers.
Right.
So I'll always go in there, select my seat, upgrade if I can,
If you can, that's it. There you go,
do all that, because people don't necessarily do that for you all the time. So I'm totally meticulous about that.
I feel like sometimes I'm a broken record because I talk about that all the time.
Yeah, and you got to make sure you get your miles.
Man,
keep your status and all that.
As many times as you've been around the world touring, I'm sure you have some good mileage status, right?
Yeah, although, man, this year is weird. Like, I've lost all my status. Actually, last year I lost it because I wasn't doing
Vegas, right?
Yeah. I'm not touring like I used to. I'm in Vegas pretty much, and then we've done some one-offs and we've done a lot of international stuff. But a lot of times it's not on the same airline. So it's like, okay, I got a handful of miles on this airline, a handful on this. Could be some international airline where they're not part of any alliance. So,
right.
you know,
Those are the worst.
But yeah, I mean, all of us that travel a lot, like all that stuff, you know, means a lot to us.
It
You know, we're
matters.
always trying to like,
Right.
you know, figure out our status situation and all
That's
that.
right. That's right.
You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast by Nomad.
Follow The Career Musician on Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, this is Derek Frank from Gwen, Stefani, and Shania Twain's bands, and you are listening to The Career Musician. Yeah.
That's another good segue. You said your yoga mat. So talk to us about your health and lifestyle.
Yeah.
What do you like to do to stay? You're very fit, and you know, what are some of the things you enjoy doing?
It varies. Like I always try to keep fit on the road, whether it's go running, just go walk around town, do yoga in my room. Lately, I've been doing Orange Theory, which is this really cool, like, high intensity
place.
interval training stuff.
Yes.
And that's really cool because the studios are everywhere. Like we had a one-off in Singapore recently. There was an Orange Theory place there. So I went and did a workout class there.
Wow,
and so
that's
I'm,
cool.
you know, now we do Vegas. I found a studio out there.
Right.
It's just great. It's a great full body workout. So I'm doing that a lot.
That's
but there
awesome.
were phases where like I used to run marathons and I was like real hardcore about that.
I
So-
remember that.
yeah. So I'd be on tour, you know, doing 20 milers before sound check and stuff like that. Like
Wow.
that's something I really enjoyed because that's a great way to see a city. It's
That's
just
so
it's just
true.
get out in the morning and run, you know.
Yes.
I'd be getting back at 10 a.m. Everybody else would be, you know, just waking up,
Just kinda waking up.
hungover, you know. And I'm like, man, I just ran 15 miles, you know.
Doesn't that
So,
feel great?
It does.
I
it
started
does.
doing that a handful of years ago
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way to see a place, you know.
Yeah.
So I was really into that for a while. These days I'm not running as much, but yeah, every couple of years I get into something else. But I'm always active. Like it's a necessary thing. Yeah.
That's right. It's so important.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
important. So, man, all right, let's talk about some of the basic concepts of business acumen. A lot of times I feel like people put music first, and as we should, especially for the first part of our career and training, but then they forget that we're self-employed we're independent contractors, right? Self-employed musicians, which means we have to have a lot of business skill. So, you know, talk about that. Do you have an accountant? Do you do your own accounting? Or, you know, planning your schedule, branding, and all these different things, invoicing, you know, a little bit about how you deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I do everything myself as far as like
Okay,
if I have
good.
to send somebody an invoice. I have an accountant, but my accountant doesn't like manage everything for me. My accountant like does my taxes and stuff and advises me on things. But yeah, if I have to send invoices out, I do that. Just kind of keep track of all my stuff, keep my receipts, you know, stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's the financial
How
thing.
about interfacing for gigs? Do you, you know, again, in my experience, I really like if I'm going to hire somebody, I lead with what the gig is and what it pays, right? Have you ever had to deal with people not telling you, so then you have to go fishing for that information?
Of course, yeah. And that's always the tough part of negotiating a gig. It's the part that like no one really wants to talk about, you know. It's like, all right, well, let's get this over with. Let's, you know, okay. And it's always a tough thing when someone was like, what do you want to get paid for this? And the answer is, of course, as much as possible.
Right.
You know, you
Good
can't,
answer,
can't
yes.
say that, but you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of a tough thing. I mean, at this point, I've done enough gigs that I've kind of seen the different scales on different levels, and I kind of have an idea of like what I like to go to get paid. So a lot of times, if I'm negotiating something, I'll think of what I'd like to get paid and start a little higher than that, just in case, you know, because
Pad.
you don't want to leave any money on the table, you know,
Right.
but you don't want to scare them away either. So it's kind of a tough thing. You got to kind of
Right.
see what level that artist is or what gig that, you know, what level that gig is at and be like, okay, well, what do I think they're going to pay? What do I want to get paid? What's my minimum, you know?
Right.
and
Maybe
just
ask
kinda-
some people who you trust,
Yeah.
close friends. Hey, what do you think about this? You know,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
I know
And
you've
it's-
done the gig, you know, or something
Sure.
like that, right?
And it's such a sliding scale. I mean, of course,
is,
like, you know, there's some
isn't it?
gigs I've done that have paid really well, and it's like I would love to just get that rate for every gig I do, but
Right.
that can't always happen, unfortunately. Everybody's budget is different, especially now. Like, you know, we see a lot of corners being cut, and
That's right.
you know, so it's a tough thing, but yeah, we just always have to negotiate. We just kind of think of a number that we want and try to get as close to that as possible. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that's it. That's excellent. No, that's great. Hey, and then getting back to the stage, you're a great showman.
Thank
your
you.
showmanship skills are just as good as your musicianship skills, which, by the way, for those who haven't heard Derek Frank on bass, you are a mother. Like, you tear it up. You're
thank you.
beautiful, really. So tell us about that. How did you develop your showmanship skills? Was it evolving, which I'm kind of guessing over time, right? Or does it go back to the cruise ships and whatnot? Or
it's more or less paying attention to my surroundings and looking at the other people I'm on stage with,
Right.
the artist. Like, how does the artist perform? How does the rest of the band perform? And how do I perform in a way that kind of matches that and doesn't stand out too much and to where I don't look lazy, you know?
Right.
Like, there's some gigs where, like, if everybody on the stage is jumping around, if I'm standing there looking at the ground, that's not going to work. But yet, if it's a gig where everybody's kind of a little bit more mellow, you know, if I'm up there like Flea, that's not going to work either. So it's just being observant. It's just kind of like
That's right.
seeing, you know, because a lot of the situations I get put into, other people have already been there for a while. Like when I joined Shania's band, they were, you know, it was just me and the drummer that signed on for that tour. The rest of the band had already been with her for a while. So, you know, I kind of like pay attention to how they're performing on stage and how Shania's performing and what can I do to be interesting to look at on stage, but not upstage and not be boring to look at, you know?
That's right. That's right.
And then the same thing with Gwen. It's like, you know, Gwen comes from No Doubt, where those guys are just running around like crazy, jumping around, like they're really all over the place. And a couple of the guys in our band were in No Doubt, so they've been in it for, you know, from the get go. So they've got a certain style of performing that they're used to. So I just try to kind of fit along with what they're doing, you know.
That's beautiful,
You know?
man.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Now, and again, that ties into being fit, right? If you have to run around on stage.
Oh man, yeah. Like God, if I wasn't in shape, I could not do the Gwen gig.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're running around like idiots.
I've seen some
know.
videos and photos, man. I can tell.
It is a workout, man. I mean, I'm just like, I come off that stage just soaked in sweat.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
it is a
That's
workout. It's a
awesome.
cardio workout for sure. And it's fun. It's fun to do that. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
all of our rock and roll dreams coming true, getting to like run around on stage and jump around. You know, it's fun.
Literally living
like
the
it.
dream.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, totally.
Now, do you sing backgrounds on any of the gigs?
I do,
You
yeah,
Do? Wow.
uh-huh,
Talk about that, because that's a whole nother balance.
Sure. And singing background is something that I really fought for a while. I didn't really get into it seriously till I joined Shania's band, when it was really required. Like, we were on headset mics. Pretty much everybody in the band sings. Like, somehow I'd gotten away with not singing up until that point, you know, where
Sound
like,
like me the first half of my career.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in tons of cover bands and stuff, and it's just like, most of the bands I was in, just the vocals were kind of covered and no one was really telling me you have to sing.
Right.
And I just kind of assumed that I wasn't a singer. I was, you know, I made a couple stabs at it, like on certain gigs I would try a little bit, but I never really practiced it. And it's an instrument, just like any instrument. You're not going to be good if you don't put hours in on your own.
So true.
And that's something that I learned, like when I did it. Like, I was always, you know, like I was always kind of afraid of it and just kind of said, I'm not a singer. I'm just going to play bass. And then when I joined Shania's band, it's like, okay, whatever I can do to, you know, make myself valuable on this gig. And vocals, that was a big part of it. So I got like a vocal course thing. I took a couple lessons before I went out on the tour.
That's brilliant. Yes.
I teach a little bit at MI, and there's another vocal instructor there that I took some lessons with.
That's great.
He's also a great bass player, a friend of mine, Mike Minnell, who's a great singer. He teaches at MI, and I was like, man, can we get together? Like, I just wanted to get his concept on playing bass and singing. So I just kind of went all in on it and just practiced, put in the hours, and just kind of after a while, I realized that I was getting better, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, it's like an instrument.
There you go.
You have to put the hours in.
And the syncopation, isn't it a trip?
Oh,
with
man.
What your hands and fingers are doing versus your voice.
Yeah.
You have to really get over that hump.
Absolutely. And it does get easier. It's again, it's like one of those things, the more you do it, the more you
sure
can
does.
separate the two and do them.
That's right.
Because, yeah, it used to always hang me up. And then I started having to, you know, sing rhythms that were way different from what I was playing. And I just realized that, yeah, it gets easier. It starts to become kind of second nature the more you do it.
Right. I always
Yeah.
think of drummers who sing, right? Don
Yeah.
Henley, Phil
Man.
Collins.
Yeah, I mean, that's really tough because they've got four
Five,
limbs going,
right.
you know, plus singing. That's, yeah,
It's a
I
trip,
really
yeah.
admire drummers that can sing well.
Yeah, same here, same here. Man, that's awesome. So have you ever been offered a gig where you felt like, perhaps you wanted to do it, but you really had to say no, thank you. How do you deal with that? What is that like?
Sometimes you got to know when you're spreading yourself too thin. That's part of it. Like for me, it's like I've been juggling gigs for a long time, and at some point, and you know, I want to do them. Like most of the things I get called from, like, man, I want to do that. I love playing. I love playing with different people. Love traveling, all that stuff. But sometimes you got to say, like, man, if I do that, I'm going to have no time to sleep and have no time, with my wife. Like I've had some situations like that where I'm like, man, I want to do it, but I just cannot fit it into my schedule right now.
Right.
So there are those. Then there's also things where it's just not really what you want to do. If it's like, maybe the money's not right. Maybe just the music isn't really you.
And being honest with yourself to assess these things, the reasons why you might not want to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even if you have to write down some pros and cons or.
Yeah, I've done that before. I'm like, okay, well, it would be this and this, but if I did it, I might have to leave this gig and, I'd piss this person off because I'd have to miss a couple of things. And is it worth it, long term? How long is this gig going to last? Am I really the right person for it?
Wow, that's a tough one to be honest with.
There have been a couple that I've gotten called for. I'm like, man, like, that would be really fun, but I don't know if I'm really the right person for it.
Wow.
I got called for Marilyn Manson years ago, and it was just like putting the feelers out. It wasn't like I wasn't being offered the gig yet, but I was just like, wow, like, am I the right guy for that? Like, I want to be the guy for everything, but I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't really know if that's a gig for me. I think
as
I might.
As cool as it sounds.
Yeah. And the artist might not be happy with me. Like if I get there and I'm not what that person envisions, then it's not going to work out,
So true.
And I can't step too far out of like who I am. I still got to be me on any gig, but but at that time that call came in, I'm like, man, I just don't think I'm the Marilyn Manson guy.
That's right. That's good because whatever gig we're doing, that's not our identity.
Sure.
We have to be our own unique individuals.
Yeah, of course.
And be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice.
But the cool thing is that, for some gigs you can bring your identity to that gig.
Right.
With the two gigs I'm on now, I mean, of course, like I'm, playing the parts of that artist and trying to fit in with that artist, but I'm bringing myself to it as well.
Well, I think that's the beauty of being a career musician, a sideman, so to speak. When you get to that point like you have achieved, where they're calling you for you, for what you bring to the table as Derek Frank, right?
We're all always hoping for that.
Yes.
We don't want to just be a guy, a guitar player, a bass player. We want to be, ourselves. Yeah. It's like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Liso with Gwen. She's still with Gwen?
She is. Yeah.
Liso, the guitarist. I love her.
Yeah.
I worked with her with Cat Graham.
Oh, cool.
I hired her to be in that band for a while.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice.
It just reminded me of something. I wanted to mention her name before I forgot.
Yeah.
And she's
fun.
She's a great presence all on her
Oh,
own.
absolutely.
She's got her own vibe as well.
Totally. Gwen loves her. Yeah, it's
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
she's real
awesome.
cute on stage.
Yeah, and I love seeing you and her on stage together. It's
fun.
You, Gwen, and Lisa.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
we've kind of got our little things worked out like over time. Like Gwen is real loose with everything. It's not very structured. It's just like, okay, on these songs, Lisa and Derek come out front. But once you're there, do whatever you want. Like it's not like, okay, at this section, like at the chorus, you're going to be stage left, you're going to be stage right. Then you turn and face each other. There's nothing like that. It's just, I've asked Gwen that, like when we were putting the show together, I'm like, okay, well, is there something you want us to do? It's like, no, just, whatever. Just be rock stars. So like over time, Lisa and I kind of work out little fun things we do on stage with each other, just interactive things,
That's so awesome.
It's kind of fun.
Have you ever worked with choreographers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but typically with players, the choreography is just blocking. It's just telling you where to be on stage. They're not. I haven't done the kind of gigs where they're telling you actually how to move.
Right.
It's just like it's just blocking. Yeah, it's like, okay, at the chorus, you guys come out front, and then you're gonna walk down the thrust and do this. But there's no like dance moves or anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I know.
Yeah, no one needs to see that.
That's how I feel about myself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, all right, so shifting gears, studio etiquette. I know you've done a ton of session work. Talk about that. I think I started as a session player in Nashville, really cut my teeth
cool.
there, which I think was great. 8 years in the studios.
Nice.
Learned everything that I needed to know.
Yeah.
So came out here, did more session work, still do it. But I truly believe there is a studio etiquette.
Sure.
Talk about that
Yeah.
in your experience.
Yeah. Well, it kind of starts with the call for the project. It's like, okay, what kind of music is it? I always try to ask questions like, any specific basses you want, any specific sounds you're looking for. What are we doing? Just so I know what to bring. That's kind of the first thing. Like, I want to make sure that I'm showing up with the right gear.
Your toolbox has to be appropriate.
And a lot of times it's way more gear than you're actually going to use. Like, I've brought, 6, 7 basses to sessions and only used one.
Yes.
But you got to bring those 6 or 7 basses because you never know when they're going to be like, oh man, maybe like a hollow body here. Because a lot of times when you get the call, they don't know exactly what they want until you start creating. You start getting in there and getting sounds and playing these songs. So yeah, the first bit is just showing up with all the right gear and giving them plenty of options. I always show up with like pencils, pad of paper so I can make my little notes, got a little manuscript book so I can because a lot of times they don't provide charts. Most of the time they don't. So just prepared to kind of write my own charts. I always bring my in-ears and a little extension cord to sessions because I just prefer that over headphones.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I just bring a little headphone extension in my in-ears. I mean, sometimes as a bass player, I'll track in the control room, so I don't need cans or anything.
Sure.
But a lot of times I'll be in the live room, like if we're all tracking together.
Yeah.
Which I always look forward to with those sessions.
How about knowing when to speak up and when to keep your mouth shut?
Yeah, and there's a lot of psychology involved. Like,
that's right.
With the producer, the engineer, the artist, and when you get there, you just have to be kind of pay attention to how they run things. Do they like to dictate everything to you and you just do what they say, or are they looking for you to come up with ideas? And you got to kind of figure that out because if they're the kind of person that they seem very locked into what they're doing and very they already have a clear idea of what they want you to do, they just kind of go with that, because that's what they want. Right. But if they're just kind of like, I don't know, then you don't want to say, well, I don't know either. Right? Yeah. So, then you got to kind of be creative and step up and be like, well, how about this? Or, let's try a couple things,
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, both things are great. It's great when someone has a clear idea of what they want, because then you give it to them and it's easy. It's all good, assuming that they do know what they want. Then also it's great when they give you some creative input as well.
That's right.
But, yeah, it's just like I said, it's a lot of psychology, just trying to be observant and figure out how these people are running things and just, fit in. Yeah.
I think you hit it on the head. You've said it several times. Be observant. Pay attention to the room. Read the room.
Absolutely.
Read the room and see what's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my concept of just working as a musician. It's always just being observant, reading the room, figuring out how you can fit in. Like,
it's a trip. There's a lot of psychology involved with our job.
Absolutely, but it's a lot easier than people think. You just have to pay attention.
There you go.
Not everybody pays attention. They just come in there like, yeah, this is how I do it.
This is me. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're sidemen. We're hired guns. We're there to do whatever they need us to do.
That's right.
Whether it's on stage or in the studio.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. So, any memorable moments, artists on tour, sessions, whatever, hanging out, having dinner. If you had to pick one,
they're all memorable moments.
Right.
I just try to take it all in. Like all the travel is amazing. I try not to take any of it for granted. Whether try to just take in all the experiences of playing in a different country, or different state that hangs with the bands, and the artists are always great. I always just cherish that time, and just kind of realize how lucky we are that we get to do this for a living. I mean, God, it's amazing. Even if it's just like we're in the middle of nowhere and we're at an Olive Garden and we're just like joking around and laughing, it's still awesome.
Right.
We're not sitting behind a desk,
Yes.
We're not digging a ditch. We're out there hanging out and having a good time with like-minded people, and then we get to go make noise on a stage for an hour and a half or so.
And like you say, live out
cool.
our rock and roll fantasies, and then get up the next day and take a run around the city or whatever. All
totally.
These privileges we have, right?
Yeah, I just love all that. You could be in some some strange country at some big festival in front of tons of people and they're going nuts. You see people crying in the audience because they're such a fan of like the artist or band you're playing with, and that stuff is amazing. That like people can be so touched by what you're doing. Like I said, that's amazing. But so is being in the middle of Michigan at an Olive Garden or something with your buddies, just laughing and having a good time.
Right.
Like they're all just great experiences, and I appreciate all of them.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So words of wisdom: be observant, be grateful. Anything else you would add to that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's, and just, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of it. Just,
that's excellent.
Yeah. Those are
good stuff, man.
Concepts.
All right. You ready for this? We're going to do 10 rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I'm not going to put a timer.
All right. Okay. Let me take a sip of water here.
Yeah. Get ready. Yeah. Stretch out a little bit.
It's time for double jeopardy.
Yeah. We're coming to a close. This is awesome, man. And listen, all my career musician podcast listeners out there, take every word that Derek Frank is saying to heart. This is a man who has been doing this as a career musician for some time now, several decades. I would
crazy
say.
to think. Yeah.
I know, right? Same. I think about the same for me, and that's the only reason why I divulge that, because we were in the same era.
Right. Yeah.
But he really knows what he's talking about. He's got a lot of experience, and like I said, if you don't want to take my word for it, take Derek's word. So here we go. 10 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Derek Frank, bass player extraordinaire. You ready? Favorite food?
Man, that's a tough
I know.
one.
That trips you up, right?
Favorite food?
One of many favorites.
Say Thai food. Love Thai food.
Thai food. Funniest thing that has ever happened to you on a gig?
On a gig. God, these are tough questions.
I know.
I needed to prepare for these. Funniest thing. Let's see.
Like for me, it was I was trying to do a dance move and I tripped and fell. That was funny.
I think so far I've never fallen on stage. We're gonna knock on wood.
There you go.
Assuming
That's right.
wood,
This is wood,
Okay,
yes.
good. Yeah. There's been a lot of the funniest moments on stage are just observing the audience and just seeing just like the crazy people that come to shows.
So true.
It's a lot of that is just. Yeah, it's just so entertaining,
Yeah.
I can't, man. I'm sorry, I'm blank. I'm not
It's
thinking
okay.
of a specific
Have you ever been
thing.
flashed by an audience member?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes. That
a
used to
funny
happen
moment.
more on like cover band, like bar band gigs. It's never been flashed on like a Shania Twain show.
Right.
Those not really the flashing crowd. Yeah. But also like a lot of the
sense.
gigs I've done aren't like your really rock and roll kind of gigs. They're like they're female artists.
Yeah. I'm just fishing.
No. Yeah.
I know some of these questions are difficult. So, what your favorite activities to do on long flights? We already covered this, going over charts and stuff. Some other favorite activities on flights?
Reading, watching movies,
watching
listening to music, playing classic arcade games on my laptop. I've got one of those emulators. We've got all the like classic Nintendo games, so I'll play Super Mario, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But honestly, just sitting, like I look forward to long flights because it's the only time I ever get to sit and do nothing, which is difficult for me.
Good
as my
point.
wife likes to point out. I don't sit still.
Yeah.
So that's a time when all I can do is sit still, and I've kind of grown to appreciate that in itself.
I could relate to that. Totally.
Yeah.
How do you spend your free time? I know we don't all have a lot of free time, but when you do,
I love to snowboard. Like in the winter, that's my main
Very
thing. I go up
cool.
to Mammoth a lot. I have a place up there, so that's kind of like my favorite activity in my free time. Also love to go hiking. Yeah,
love that. Dude, I have to interject. I saw the social media post for your place in Mammoth. It looks amazing.
Oh, thank you.
How long have you had it?
About 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a house, a standalone
It's a
house?
condo.
Okay. And so now you're renting it out.
We rent it out. Yeah, we've always rented it out. Like we do the Airbnb, VRBO
Yes.
thing.
Bro,
So we rent it
those
when we can't use
pictures,
it.
gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
I want to rent it.
Thanks.
Like,
Dude, come on up anytime. Anytime you guys want to go up.
Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. We might have to figure out we can go together.
Dude,
though.
anytime.
And I'll
yeah.
still pay my
It's a
half,
blast.
right?
No, I wouldn't charge you. Come on.
Nice, man. That's so awesome. Okay, your current playlist. What do you mentioned you still listen to music. What's in your current playlist?
Current playlist. I still listen to a lot of classic stuff. I obviously like anytime I put on the Beatles, it's great.
Yes.
But one thing I'm always doing is like whenever I'm hanging with musicians, like people will just play stuff. Like I was in Colorado this past weekend doing a ski trip and a gig with a band I play playing. We were hanging out one night. We're all just like drinking beer and hanging out, and got a Bluetooth speaker going. Everybody's taking turns playing stuff, and I'm always just like saving stuff that people are playing, and just like creating a playlist out of that, because people listen to different things, and I love being exposed to stuff. And a lot of times it's just like, man, like this is music that's been around since the 60s or 70s. How come I've never heard this? And it's so awesome. So a lot of times I do that. I just save things that like other people play, and
man, there's so much
a lot
music.
of classic stuff. There's so much music out there, and that's what's so great. You're always discovering music.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Favorite TV show and/or movie that you're kind of into right now?
Seinfeld. I'm really lame when it comes to TV, because everybody's always talking about like these new Netflix shows or Amazon shows or whatever, and I pretty much, whenever I turn the TV on, I watch Seinfeld reruns or Family Guy or South Park, and I've seen them all a million
Those three
times.
Right there, that's great. Though.
But I need to be better about that. I need to start actually watching newer shows.
Yeah.
There's
some fantastic programming.
There's such great stuff out there, but for some reason I just love watching Seinfeld. But actually, Curb Your Enthusiasm just started again, the new season, so I started watching that.
Is this the final season?
I don't know. It's season 10. I don't know if they said it's the final or not.
Yeah, what a great show.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge Larry David fan.
Yeah.
So shopping, online or brick and mortar?
Both. I try to be good about brick and mortar, because I hate to see brick and mortar stores going away like they are.
I know.
So I like to shop at stores, but a lot of times it's just so convenient to shop online. And with a lot of clothing, I kind of know the brands that I like, and I order stuff online. So I do a lot of online shopping.
Yeah, I know. I think we've all become a little guilty of that, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think shopping for me, when I'm on tour, shopping brick and mortar is fun.
Well, yeah.
Right? You're walking around, you see a mall or something.
Yeah, or it's cool to like find like the kind of hipster neighborhood of whatever city you're in, and
even better,
find some cool little stores, record stores, t-shirt shops, whatever. It's always fun.
All right, cook, take out, or go out?
All of the above. Love to
Nice.
cook. My wife is a great cook, so a lot of times she does the cooking, I just help. Sometimes we're just too lazy to do anything. We'll just get takeout. I mean, nowadays with like, Postmates and DoorDash, it's so easy. And then we go out a lot. We're kind of foodies, and we love, checking out different places, and we're vegans, and so many great vegan places in LA. So we go out quite a bit as well.
How long have you been vegan?
I've only been vegan since September, so about, 5 months now. But I've been vegetarian for almost 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I became a vegetarian in high school and just never looked back. And then
That's
I got to a
excellent.
point where I was like, you know what? There's no point in me eating dairy anymore. Like, I don't know why I'm eating dairy,
Wow.
So finally went vegan, and that's it for me. Yeah.
Very interesting. So what was the dairy that you were eating that you got rid of?
I would do eggs. I would do cheese. I didn't do a lot of milk. Like if I got a latte or something, it was always almond milk.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't do a lot of dairy, but I did a little bit. So I didn't rule it out completely.
And you notice a difference even since you got rid of the dairy?
I think so. My wife notices it in herself more than I notice it in me, but she went from being a meat eater to being vegan, so it's a bigger jump. For me, I was almost there anyway, Yeah.
Favorite cocktail or drink?
I'm an old fashioned guy.
I love old fashions.
I love old fashions. I have to say, I have to toot my own horn. I make them very well.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm a one trick pony when it comes to bartending.
Nice.
And so we barrel age old fashions. We smoke them. We make our own bitters. Like we're all about it.
Really? So
Yeah,
you're doing this
so I'm
at your
into it.
house?
Yeah, come over.
Wow. Oh yeah.
Over sometime.
Done.
Yeah.
We've been talking about getting together. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
In this very near future.
Right. It's got to happen.
All right. And then finally, if you weren't a career musician, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd live in the mountains, be a snowboard instructor or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I would do something in the outdoors. Like, definitely live in a ski town.
That's cool.
Figure out something to do there. Yeah.
And were you always a skier?
I started snowboarding when I was about 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wasn't super young as a teenager, but that's kind of my second passion in life.
Wow.
Outside of music. So
It's on my bucket list. I so want to learn how to ski and or snowboard. I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
So when I finally make the trip to Mammoth, you're going to have to teach me.
Yeah. Come on up, man.
I'm going to be on the bunny slopes,
Oh, there are
man.
there are plenty bunny slopes up there. Yeah.
Where can we find you online? What's all your handles, your social media?
Well, website is derekfrank.com. That's DEREKFRANK.com. Instagram is Derek Frank Bass. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, although I've been really bad about posting videos. There's not a whole lot of content on YouTube. I got to get better about that.
It takes time. Me too.
I gave up Twitter a while back, and I am on Facebook. So
Facebook as well.
Facebook,
Okay,
you can
great.
just search my name and find me. Yeah.
Derek, thank you so much. for
Nomad,
being a
thanks for
guest.
having me. Great to be
Absolutely,
here. Great
man.
to chat. Great to see your place. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. All
Right on.
Till next time.
All right. Thanks, man.
I'm just a nomad, nowhere man, writing the songs in this one-man band. A nomad, yeah, I'm a nomad, So hush now, darling, you'll be fine. I'll be back this way sometime. Until then, baby, don't you cry, 'cause I'll be calling.
Hey, this is Nomad, host and creator of the Career Musician Podcast, and I am thoroughly stoked to be an official member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Pantheon Podcast Network is the first of its kind as an all music-based podcast collective. Please be sure to check us out at pantheonpodcast.com for more info.